Let's dive right in. It's one thing to have a huge, world-changing idea, but it's a whole other challenge to actually live it out day to day. And that's exactly the problem the very first Christian communities ran into. They had these massive beliefs about God, about the future, but they had to figure out, okay, how do we make this work in real life without completely messing it up? And this quote just nails it, doesn't it? The way we conceive the future sculpts the present. I mean, think about it. If you believe your future is bleak, it just drains the energy out of today. But if you have this powerful, positive vision of what's coming, well, that shapes everything you do right now. It completely changes the game. So that brings us to a really fascinating question. What happens when a belief that's supposed to be a good thing, a positive thing, actually starts to create some pretty serious, unexpected problems? That's the core tension we're going to dig into today by looking at how the early church had to navigate this exact issue. All right, first up, let's talk about beliefs that shape reality. We're going to start with one foundational belief that was coloring everything for these early communities. You have to understand, from its very beginning, the Christian faith was all about the future. And the single most important thing for them to know about that future was the belief that Jesus would return. Now, this wasn't some minor detail. It was the defining idea about what was coming next. And it was meant to give shape and purpose to their entire lives in the present. And what's so interesting is just how practical this was supposed to be. The goal wasn't some abstract philosophical idea. It was meant to transform everyday life, to fill the present with hope, to clear out all the useless clutter from our lives, to shrink down our anxieties, and to give us this incredible freedom to just act. That was the whole point. But, and this is a big but, as we kind of hinted, it didn't always go according to plan. So let's jump into our first case study and see how this powerful belief about the future actually played out in a real community, in a place called ancient Thessalonica. And this slide just lays out the problem perfectly. The intended belief was what the Apostle Paul called a taut and joyful expectancy. Think of it like being on your toes, ready and excited for what's next. But what was actually happening was that this belief was getting twisted into these debilitating misconceptions. For some people, it turned into paralyzing fear. And for others, it led to this kind of lazy, shiftless attitude, almost like, hey, why should I bother working if the world's about to end? You had these two crazy extremes, and both were totally missing the point. So Paul has to step in and offer a correction. He's trying to guide them back to this sweet spot, this taut and joyful expectation. It's this balanced state of mind where you're ready, you're alert, you're looking forward, but you're not panicking and you're not kicking back and doing nothing. It's about living in a state of active readiness for whatever God has planned next. Now, this focus on God's big future plan raises another huge question, one that pretty much every faith community has to wrestle with. If God is the ultimate leader, if he's the one truly in charge, then where does that leave human leadership? What's its proper place? And how do you do it right? And that question leads us directly into our second case study, which is all about the leader. For this, we're going to look at Paul's letters to his younger partners, Timothy and Titus, who were on the ground trying to set up healthy leadership in their own communities. And here's the core challenge they were up against. For Christians, the belief is that when they gather together, God is present and he is sovereign. He's the one who's truly in charge. Well, that automatically means that any human leader has to, by definition, take second place. The big temptation, of course, is for someone with a big ego to kind of elbow their way to the front and make it all about them. This table really shows the two paths, and man, they are night and day. On one side, you have ego-centered leadership. It's bossy, it's always shoving its way to the front, and the source material is clear that it actually causes real damage to people. But the alternative is what's called inconspicuous leadership. This kind of leader guides without dominating. They take second place, and their whole focus is on building up the community. The difference in the result is just massive. So what does this actually look like? Well, Paul's advice was to be inconspicuous. But that doesn't mean being weak. You still lead with conviction and firmness, but you do it by encouraging and guiding people. And maybe most importantly, the goal isn't to cling to power. It's to pass on what you know to help develop the next person in line. Okay, so let's pull these two big case studies together and see how they actually form a kind of blueprint for a healthy community. So when you step back and look at it, we've seen two very real, very practical challenges that these early communities were facing. One was about how they managed their vision of the future, and the other was about how they managed leadership in the present. And in response, they got two very clear solutions that, when you put them together, create this amazing blueprint for a community that's not just healthy, but resilient.
And here it is, that blueprint, in two pretty simple steps. Step 1. Calibrate your expectation. A community has to get its view of the future right. It has to be hopeful, but it also has to be grounded. And step 2. Cultivate inconspicuous leadership. You've got to manage the present with humility and a genuine focus on serving others.
And here is the absolute crucial point. These two ideas are not separate issues. They are completely connected. For a community to be healthy, it has to carefully, constantly balance its big hope for the future with the way it handles leadership right here, right now. If you get one of them wrong, the whole thing can become unstable. And all of this leaves us with a final question to think about. How do our communities today, and I'm talking about any community, whether it's a church, a company you work for, or even just a social club, how do they balance that big picture, future hope with the day-to-day reality of leadership? It's a challenge that is every bit as relevant now as it was 2,000 years ago.